Morning, everybody. We're live from the birdhouse, and today we're talking about bird food. We get lots of questions all the time about what makes one type of food or seed different from another. So I grabbed a whole bunch of different types of food, and I'll show you guys the differences between everything and what birds prefer what type of food. As always, you can always say hi in the comments and let us know what kind of birds you're seeing. And then there's other critters out there too. We've been hearing lots of stories of baby squirrels, raccoons causing some kind of havoc in neighborhoods. There's butterflies out there. There's bees. There's little frogs and toads. So any kind of sightings you want to report, feel free to put those in the comments. And of course, if you have any questions too, you can go ahead and put those in the comments as well. So we'll get started and talking about bird food. And of course, if you have any kind of bird food questions, you can put those in the comments. And if you have a favorite of your own that your birds seem to prefer, throw those in there too. So the first seed that I'll talk about is black oil sunflower seed. And black oil sunflower you're probably familiar with if you've done any kind of bird feeding, because that's really the of bird feeding. So black oil sunflower seed is going to give you the most diversity out of any one type of food. And the birds absolutely love it. So you definitely want to make sure if you are starting to feed birds that you have something with at least some kind of black oil sunflower seed. And it can go in any kind of tube feeder that has holes that are large enough for the seed to fit through. So this is a really popular tube feeder here. It's got nice big perches on it for the cardinals, and it has a base that pops out, so it's super easy to clean. But any kind of tube feeder is great for sunflower seed tray feeders. Those wooden or recycled plastic hopper feeders, those are really good for sunflower seed. So when you put out sunflower seed, you'll get a really good diversity of birds. So if you're unsure about what type of seed to put out, if you are looking at the shelf and it's full of different blends and you don't know what to do, you can't go wrong with sunflower seed. So sunflower seed's been kind of in the news recently because of the war in Ukraine, and Russia both are big growers of sunflower seed. And while the seed that we have here to feed birds is domestic, a lot of the seed that was grown overseas is crushed for sunflower oil. So now that that's not being exported, a lot of the domestic sunflower seed crop is being used and crushed for some food products when it wasn't the case before. So if you see some increasing prices in your sunflower seed, that's going to be why there's less supply of it being used for bird feeding. More of it is actually being used and crushed for sunflower oil. So who knew the things that we've been learning over the past few months? As far as blends go with sunflower seed, we have one called Deluxe, and this one's quite popular. There's a mix of sunflower seed and millet and safflower in here. So these little white seeds, little tiny white seeds in here are called millet. The thing with millet is sparrows love it. The doves love it. Some of the birds, though, tend to just throw that on the ground and they go for the larger seeds, like the sunflower seeds. So if you see a blend that has a lot of the little round millet in it, or the yellow pieces, like the cracked corn, and a little bit of sunflower seed, you might want to pass that one up, because the birds tend to just throw those little things on the ground and go for the larger seeds. This Deluxe blend is super popular, especially in the winter when we have the juncos around eating off the ground, because a lot of the little millet does end up kind of falling on the ground for those ground feeding birds. But other ground feeders will eat that. The indigo buntings will eat the millet as well, because they like those little seeds. So we also have a blend called Cardinal Elite, and Cardinal Elite are all the cardinal's favorite foods, which are going to be the black oil sunflower seed, the safflower, and the striped sunflower are all in here, as well as a little bit of the shelled sunflower. So if you want to attract cardinals, can't go wrong with Cardinal Elite. It has all of their favorite foods in there. So it's going to be all kind of larger seeds, because those cardinals, they've got that big beak and they can crack open those larger seeds with that beak. Our bestseller, though, here at the Birdhouse is our Chickadee Blend. And everything that's in our Cardinal Blend is also in the Chickadee Blend. So I like the Chickadee Blend because there's something in here for any kind of bird that's going to come to a feeder. You've got your sunflower seed and your striped sunflower and your safflower. There's also the shelled sunflower in here. And I'll show you that next. And then peanuts. And the peanuts are clutch. Chickadees love those. The titmice like them. Nuthatches, woodpeckers. So it kind of gives you a leg up. Although they will all eat the sunflower seed, the peanuts just give them, that's a little bit something that extra that they tend to prefer over just the sunflower seed alone. If you ever go to Mendon Ponds and feed the birds out of your hand, we have free samples of our Chickadee Blend that we hand out for that. And you'll notice that if they have the option, if the chickadees and most of the other birds have the option between a sunflower seed and a peanut, they will absolutely go for the peanut every single time. So it's pretty interesting to watch. They absolutely love the peanuts. So this is our best-selling blend, and it's called Chickadee. So you will notice that all the ones I've showed you so far do have shells on them. And if you want to go shellless, which is pretty a pretty common occurrence if you don't want to clean up all those shells underneath the feeder. I tend to go mostly shellless because I don't want my dogs eating it. Sunflower hearts are awesome. So just the black oil sunflower seed will attract the most diversity. You get the same thing with the sunflower hearts, maybe even more so, because this is just the inside of the sunflower seed. So you're getting the same benefit of the black oil sunflower where you get this huge diversity of birds, but you don't have the shells, which is nice. And sunflower hearts are favorites too of finches like them. They don't have to crack open the shell with that big shell. So sunflower hearts are you get that same diversity of birds as you do with your sunflower seed, but you don't get all the mess. So we now carry sunflower hearts also. We have it in small bags. We've always had it in 50-pound bags, but now we have it in 20-pound bags as well because we've had such a demand for it because it is a really great seed, perfect way to feed birds and not have to worry about the mess. So finally, with sunflower seeds, I thought I would show you these. So this is striped sunflower, and striped sunflower are much bigger. So you'll find these in some of our blends, but you can buy them just plain, just bulk striped sunflower. Striped sunflower, because it's so much bigger than black oil sunflower, this is good for larger birds. So it's hard for some of the smaller birds to crack this open. And birds with smaller beaks, like say mourning doves, if you have pigeons that are raiding your feeders, you can switch to the striped sunflower and that can help with some of that. So you wouldn't get something like a goldfinch eating this striped sunflower, but you would help alleviate some of those other birds like the pigeons, for example. If you are having pigeon problems, which I know some people do. I've been starting to get pigeons in my yard randomly now too. So that is, they're quite large and they can eat a lot of food, I have found out. As far as some other types of shellless seed go, this is what I put in my Squirrel Buster feeder and in my Drill Yankee Flipper feeder. This is the Woodpecker Blend. It's the highest quality blend that we have, but for good reason, because it's full of the sunflower hearts. So the inside of the sunflower, it's got the peanuts in it. So there's a ton of peanuts in there. There's also some fruit and some pumpkin seeds. It almost looks like a trail mix. So I have very well-fed sparrows and starlings, including other birds at my feeders. But I put the Woodpecker Blend in there because it's a good blend and you don't have the shells. So they really love the sunflower hearts and the peanuts. You could also make your own by just blending the sunflower hearts and the peanut pickouts if you wanted to make your own kind of blend, but you don't want the fruit or the pumpkin seeds. And so you could blend the peanut pickouts with the sunflower hearts to kind of make your own if you wanted kind of the same idea, but doesn't have all the fruit and that kind of thing in it. So these are peanut pickouts, we call them. And peanut pickouts are really popular for some of the the clinger birds, like your chickadees, the titmice, they love these. Nuthatches love the peanuts. And of course, woodpeckers and blue jays love peanuts. You want to make sure if you're putting out any kind of seed, especially one with peanuts, that it's in a location, if you don't want squirrels raiding your feeder, that it's in a location squirrels can't get to, because they will absolutely go for the peanuts, including the sunflower seed, but the peanuts they really, really love. So you want to make sure to put it on a pole that has a baffle on it so the squirrels can't climb up the pole, or you can get a squirrel-proof feeder. Like the Squirrel Busters are our best sellers. They're a really, really good feeder that will actually work and keep the squirrels out. So squirrels, of course, are an issue with bird feeding, and we'll be doing a class in the future about squirrel proofing your bird feeders, and it is possible. So you can always come in and we can show you the best way to do that. If you snap a photo of your setup, if you've got squirrels coming to it right now, it can be helpful if you take a picture of what your setup is and bring it in, and we'll help you with that. So we just saw the peanut pickouts, which are the inside of the peanuts. So again, no shells, but we also have peanuts in the shell. And we do have feeders made for these. These are popular with some of those same birds that will eat the pickouts, especially the woodpeckers. Some of the smaller birds like the nuthatches and the chickadees and the titmice, they can still eat these, but it takes them a little bit more time. They'll peck away at the shell and then pull out the inside of the peanut. These are especially good, though, for blue jays. So this is the absolute favorite food of blue jays. So if you want to attract blue jays to your yard, peanut pickouts peanuts in the shell here are the absolute best way to go. They love, and there are different types of seeds that don't go into a sunflower seed feeder. This is what's called a Niger feeder, and a Niger feeder, whereas the sunflower feeder had those big holes in it so the birds can pull out those larger pieces of seeds. The Niger feeders have these just tiny little holes here, and this is for the Niger, or the thistle seed, which is really, really fine, very, very small. So this is a type of thistle seed, but it undergoes a process so it won't sprout. So it is actually thistle seed, but if it falls on the ground, it won't sprout. So that's once it undergoes that process to make it not sprout, it is then called Niger seed. So so it has to undergo that process because the thistle is considered a noxious weed here in the U.S. It's an invasive, kind of an invasive plant, although the goldfinches do love the little plant down from it. They eat the seeds from it, but it's not allowed to be sold in the U.S. in seed form that'll sprout. So that is what happens with the Niger seed. So this stuff is all grown overseas. So whereas all of our other seeds that you've seen so far today are all domestic from the U.S., the Niger seed is not grown in the U.S. That's grown in India and over in Africa. So it comes over on a boat. And your Niger seed, we've talked about before, can go bad after 2-3 months. So you don't want to buy it in large quantities that you can't go through in that amount of time, because it can go bad after that amount of time. So you want to make sure that you go through it pretty quickly. So you want to buy it in smaller quantities usually than you would buy, say, your sunflower seed. So this is the Niger food, and that goes into a Niger feeder, which attracts especially goldfinches. So they love the Niger seed. So if you want more goldfinches, Niger is the way to go. And then if you want to give your finches a little bit something extra, or if you're not having luck with attracting finches that well, you can try our finch favorite blend. This is what I put in my feeders. I switched from Niger to this blend. And so this is Niger seed mixed with the ground up sunflower hearts. So it's those sunflower hearts, but they're very, very fine. So if you had just sunflower hearts, they don't fit into your Niger feeder. The seed is just too big. So these are the ground up insides of those sunflower hearts. They're made small enough so they can fit into that Niger feeder, and they won't, and the birds can easily pull out the little pieces. So finch favorite, not only can you get the goldfinches, I've been getting house finches eating a lot of it, and chickadees. So chickadees really like, I think the sunflower hearts are what they're really going for. Every once in a while I'll get one coming to the Niger food, but it's not super often. And we've got a couple more types of seeds that I would show you here. I've got like a little bit of everything. A safflower. So safflower is very popular, especially in the early spring when the grackles start coming back into town. The grackles can really raid feeders quite often. They can really drain them quickly. So that can be frustrating to people if you fill your feeder up and then a couple hours later it's totally gone. You can put out Niger seed, and that can help with the grackles because they don't like it. There's just something about this that they don't like. So if you've got grackles totally raiding your feeders, you can give this safflower seed a try. And also the starlings don't like it either. So this is one way to kind of keep those birds at bay. But it's a favorite of cardinals. So they absolutely love the safflower. So safflower is really the only seed I put out with shells on it because the cardinals love it so much. And it doesn't go as fast as my sunflower seed does, but it allows for the cardinals to always have something to eat in the yard. So I love this. This is one that does sprout just like the sunflower seeds. You'll notice if you do any kind of bird feeding, you might have a random sunflower seed pop up. Safflower is the same way. If you have a random kind of bright orange flower start popping up in your yard, could be the safflower, especially if you have chipmunks around. They are well known for burying types of seeds in people's yards, and then all of a sudden you'll have some different kind of random flowers show up, but they are actually quite pretty, and they do attract butterflies. So safflower is really popular to keep the blackbirds away. It also tends to keep squirrels away. Squirrels don't really like the safflower seed either. So if you have a feeder that you're unable to squirrel proof, you can put safflower seed in it, and that will help keep the squirrels away too. And speaking of keeping squirrels, seed that is mixed with hot sauce to keep the squirrels at bay. So we've had different types in the past. This is one we just got back in stock. It's called Sizzle and Heat. So it's mixed. It's a blend of bird seed. There's black oil sunflower in here, shelled sunflower. So again, it'll attract a big diversity of birds to your yard, but it's treated with hot sauce. And the idea with the hot seed is that squirrels and other mammals like deer can taste the hot sauce. They can taste the hotness of the seed, but the birds can't. They just don't have as many taste buds as the mammals do. So the mammals can taste it, but the squirrels can't. So it's one way to keep squirrels out of your feeder is with the hot seed. So we do have it in some smaller bags like this. This is a 5-pound bag. We also have it in 14-pound bags as well. So we normally carry 2 different brands of it. It's been hard to get recently. So this Sizzle and Heat is one that we have in at the moment. And then finally, I thought I would share with you corn. So corn is often kind of a filler in birdseed, just like how the little white millet seeds can be considered a filler. Although birds do eat it, it tends to kind of be the last thing that they eat. So this is called whole corn. Usually in birdseed, you'll find cracked corn, which is the ground up corn. Squirrels, of course, will eat this. So if you're looking for a way to kind of feed squirrels and keep them away from your feeder, you can put whole corn out on the ground. That can help kind of keep them at bay for at least a little while. But if you happen to have birds like ducks coming to underneath your feeder, or even wild turkey, they'll eat this whole corn too. So I thought I would mention that. Not only can it kind of keep squirrels at bay if you do put it out and kind of put it further away from your other feeders, but some wild birds like turkey especially will eat the whole corn as well. So something a little different that you might want to try. I know some of you guys have been getting turkey or even pheasant coming to your feeder, coming underneath your feeders. So if you are, that's something you can always put out to give them a little something extra to eat. And of course, it's that time of the year where birds are eating a lot of insect material. So once the birds' eggs have hatched, they feed them lots of insect protein. So we do provide that as well. We have mealworms. So we do have freeze-dried mealworms. We have live mealworms. The birds do prefer live mealworms, but sometimes people don't prefer putting out live mealworms for the birds. So we do have freeze-dried. And these you just put into a little cup. So think of if you've got an Oriole feeder, How it's for the jelly, if it's just a little dish, something like that is perfect for mealworms. So you can either use your Oriole feeder, or we do have we do have some blue ones for blue that are made to attract bluebirds. But mealworms this time of the year you'll find are really popular with birds because they do feed their nestlings just so much insect protein. So the trick with the freeze-dried mealworms is you do want to keep them you do want to kind of keep them a little bit moist if you can. If you spray a little bit of water on them, they'll absorb that, and it just makes them look a little bit more appetizing for the birds. If you feed the live mealworms, you want to store them in your refrigerator. So that's one of the reasons people can be kind of iffy about them. The reason you want to store them in your refrigerator is because they are a beetle larva. So storing them in the refrigerator just helps prolong their development process, because if you keep them out of the refrigerator, they will do their metamorphosis just more quickly. And so they'll turn into little beetles. So there's nothing wrong with it if you've got a little cup of beetles, but keeping them in the refrigerator will just stall their development process. So that's why they're stored in the refrigerator. And it is also that time of the year where birds are drinking a lot of nectar. We've got our birds here that are migratory, the orioles and the hummingbirds, and both of them will come to feeders. And there are different types of nectars you can use. So we've got some, I like to use these, the ready-to-use stuff from Sweet Seed. These are also infused with different things, like the Oriole nectar is citrus infused, so you can even smell it when you're pouring it in the feeder. It smells like oranges. So the Orioles seem to like this, especially early on in the season. I get them drinking the nectar more so than right now. But we do have different types of Oriole nectar. So there's ready-to-use stuff. We do have mixes that you just add water to. So these are super simple to use also. You don't have to boil the water with this specific one too, which is nice. So you can just, what I do with powder is I make it all up at once. So this little packet makes 48 ounces. So I just make a pitcher of it, store it in the fridge, and then that'll last longer that way. If you do make a bunch of nectar at once, you do want to store it in the refrigerator to keep it fresh longer. You can also make your own Oriole nectar, and the recipe is 1 part sugar to 5 parts water. So it's similar to a hummingbird nectar, just not quite as sweet. So this is the Oriole nectar. You want to make sure you change your nectar out every few days at least, because it can get moldy. If you see that it's getting cloudy, you definitely want to dump it out and get some new stuff. We do have something called Nectar Defender, which will keep your nectar fresh longer, though. If you're looking to prolong the life of your nectar, this will keep it fresh for more like a week or 10 days. So this is pretty great, especially if you're going away and you still want to feed your birds, but you don't want the nectar to get moldy or anything like that. You can put a little bit of this into your nectar, and that will keep it fresh longer. So this is really, really popular, and for good reason. It makes it so you don't have to fill that feeder and change up the water just as much as you normally would have to. So then as far as Orioles go, we were just talking Orioles, the jelly. So this is what they like the most out of everything. So they'll drink nectar. You can also feed them orange slices. So you can slice an orange in half. They'll eat that, especially early in the season. They seem to really like the nectar and the oranges. And then all season long, they'll eat the jelly. So this is a mix of grape and blackberry. It's called birdberry jelly. And the Orioles really, really like this quite a bit. Right now, the Orioles are sitting on the nests. We haven't heard any reports yet of babies coming to feeders yet, but they will soon. So right now, the Orioles tend to be feeding their babies a lot of, again, the insect protein. So mealworms are a good way to keep your Orioles coming this time of the year if they've kind of dropped off from coming to feeders. And it's been hit or miss. Some people are getting lots of Orioles still eating the jelly. Some people aren't seeing them. Ultimately, they tend to come back to the feeders once their young have fledged. So once they've left the nest, they tend to bring their babies to feeders again, and we'll show them the food source and sometimes get a big beak of jelly and then feed it to the babies, which is really fun. to see. So if you haven't been seeing orioles for the past couple of weeks, you're not alone. They're tending to their nests right now, but if you keep your feeders out, you'll probably get a glimpse of them again coming back to the feeders once we get a little bit later in the season. And then, of course, there's hummingbirds, and the hummingbird nectar. Of course, we have the ready-to-use stuff. We also have different concentrates, like the liquid concentrate, and these are both infused as well. So the oriole nectar was citrus infused, and these are infused with wildflower extracts. So the hummingbirds like these quite a bit. So this is, I use the ready-to-use stuff. It's just super simple. Just pour it in your feeder, a little bit of feeder fresh, and you're good to go. We also have the powder concentrates too that you can just add water to, so you can make up your nectar that way, and you can make your own using sugar and water. And the recipe for the hummingbird nectar is 1 part sugar to 4 parts water, so it's going to be more sweet than the oriole nectar. And we hear all the time that orioles will come to hummingbird feeders, hummingbirds will come to oriole feeders, so they don't really mind switching it up. So if you're only going to make one type of nectar, I would make up the hummingbird nectar, the one that's more sweet, because the orioles seem to come to that just fine. So you don't have to overdo it necessarily. And then if you are wanting to feed the hummingbirds, but you haven't seen them, and the changing of the nectar can get to be a bit much, there's always the humbug feeder. So that's this thing. So we've talked about this in the past. Now, this is a hummingbird protein feeder. So just like how the mealworms are a source of protein for birds, the hummingbirds will eat little insects. And so they get their protein that way. And this contraption is made to attract little fruit flies that the hummingbirds will eat. So the way it works is you open up the lid, and inside you put a banana peel. That's all you need to do. And there's little slits in the feeder here. That banana peel will attract fruit flies. The fruit flies will lay their eggs on the banana peel, and you'll see after a few days, it doesn't take very long at all, but there's little fruit flies crawling all over your humbug feeder. The bright red will attract the hummingbirds. That'll bring them in. Eat the little fruit flies that are all over the feeder. So something totally different, but this can attract the hummingbirds, and it's really low maintenance. So you do want to kind of throw another banana peel or other items of fruit in there every once in a while just to refresh it. But this is another way to feed the hummingbirds without the nectar. And just like how this feeder is red, your hummingbird feeders, if they are red, that can help bring them in. You don't need to use any kind of dyes, though, in your nectar. You don't want to dye it red. It's just not known if any of the red dyes can harm the hummingbirds in any way. So you don't need to dye your nectar. Your nectar is fine just being clear. But having a red feeder can help bring in some more hummingbirds. And then finally, there are suet cakes. And suet is a fun way to feed birds, especially the woodpeckers. Woodpeckers absolutely love suet. These are blocks of fat that are sometimes mixed with things. So this one, for example, is called Nutty Treat. If you're looking to attract the most diversity of birds with suet, anything with nuts in it is fantastic. They really like that. So this one's really popular. And even orioles will come to suet here and there. So we do have an orange suet if you want to attract the orioles. So there are different flavors. We do have berry suets and insect suets, which are popular with bluebirds. So you can get a diversity of different birds coming to your suet as well. But normally the thing you're going to get the most at your suet feeder are going to be woodpeckers, like this little downy woodpecker here that's on the package. And if you've got squirrels, again, that are raiding your suet because they will absolutely eat it, especially if it's something with nuts or berries in it, there is hot pepper suet. And this is by far our best seller because just like that hot seed, this is mixed with some hot pepper. You can probably kind of maybe see the reddish color to it there. And just like how that hot seed, the squirrels can taste the hot pepper, but the birds can't. Same idea, just with this hot pepper suet. So you can get the woodpeckers coming to it just fine, but the squirrels won't eat it. So this is hot pepper suet, and that's our best seller because again, you don't get the squirrels. And then there are little seed cakes that you can get too to put in your suet feeders. So this is like a woodpecker seed cake here. So you might find if you can only do something like a small suet feeder, if you've got a small space or what have you, if you put out a little cake like this that has some seeds in it, you might get things that don't normally come to a suet feeder, like cardinals, for example. So we do have these seed cakes. So this is a mix of, there's some corn in there, there's some sunflower seed, there's some peanuts. So pretty good mix of seeds in here to attract some different songbirds. And then kind of like suet, same idea, are these seed logs. So these are logs of seed that you put out just on a simple little feeder like this. This is the one I've got. These seed logs, they have holes down the center of them. So they just will slide on the rod in the middle here. And then there's a perch here that the birds will land on, and they peck away at these. So the seed logs are nice because the birds don't go through them as quickly as they do with just the loose seed. So whereas I'm filling my feeders every day or every other day, depending on the size of them, these logs tend to last more like a week or more, depending. Again, it varies based on how many birds you have. But this is another way you can feed the birds, and you don't have to refill your feeders as often. So those are the different types of seed and food that I have to show you guys. If you have any kind of questions, you can put those in the comments. It looks like Karen's on. Good morning, Karen. Greg is on. He says, needing this information. Thanks. If I can't catch the whole presentation, I'll catch it on replay. Let's see. Randy's on. He says, good morning. Good morning, Randy. So Greg says, mealworms are an amazing food. Live are too expensive for me, but the insect-eating birds go for the dry ones fine. Perfect. So Greg has had good experience there with the mealworms. And Greg says, in fact, our descendants will eat mealworms regularly. Or in fact, our descendants will eat mealworms regularly as food production struggles with climate changes. So lots of mealworm action there happening, not only with birds, but with people as well. He also says, humbug style feeder doesn't work where I live in northern New Mexico. The climate is very dry here, and the bananas just tend to dehydrate quickly. Minimal fruit flies, therefore. Oh, interesting. Okay. So in climates, that makes sense that the fruit would dry out too quickly. So here in upstate New York, we have a very healthy population of fruit flies, I would say. Lynn says, I'm going to try to grow some safflower seeds. Thanks for that info. Yeah, you can absolutely grow some sunflower seeds. You can grow the black oil sunflower as well if you wanted to grow sunflower seeds. It's way cheaper to buy them as bird food and just plant them that way than to buy a seed packet. Looks like that's everybody's comments and questions. We do actually have a bird walk coming up this week on Thursday. If you are interested, that is going to be at Tinker Nature Park. So that is at 10 o'clock. We're meeting at Tinker Nature Park at 10 o'clock. So that is this Thursday, which is the 16th. And then this weekend, we have a couple of events happening at the store. We have Michael Hainan is going to be selling his plants. So we've got our plant sale going on. And we're also going to have birds of prey here from Raptor Connections over at Braddock Bay Raptor Research. They're going to have some birds of prey here as well. So we've got all kinds of things happening on Saturday. Plus, it's the day before Father's Day. So if you're looking for a gift for your dad, we definitely have all kinds of great outdoorsy types of gifts. So we've got our bird walk on Thursday. That's at Tinker Nature Park at 10 a.m. You can meet there in the parking lot off Calkins Road. And then Saturday, starting at 10 o'clock, we have birds of prey here from 10 till noon. And we're having a plant sale as well. So we will also be back with a broadcast on Saturday where we will give you guys updates about the different birds in the area. We'll share your photos. And until then, have a great week, and we will talk